Hello and welcome to our virtual field trip. We're broadcasting live this morning from an atypically wet August day on the Stay and Step Farm in Tontitown, Arkansas. I'm Terry Kirkpatrick, a professor of plant pathology with the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture. And joining me today is Miss Sherry Sanders, White County Cooperative Extension Agriculture agent and the lead investigator in our research program. Sherry, welcome to our program.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it.
We'll be hearing a lot more from Sherry in a few minutes, but first I want to do a couple of housekeeping things. The first thing I want to do is, frankly, thank the Southern SARE program for the opportunity to be here today. They funded our research on blackberry production and pest control for the last 2 years. Without them, we would not be able to be here today. Our research team is truly an integrated group. We've got researchers in plant pathology, entomology, agriculture, economics. We've also got extension, communication, and IT folks and evaluators. And probably the most fundamentally important group we have are our 3 collaborating farmers.
That's right.
Now, I want to do one thing just to set the record straight this morning. Those of you who are detail-oriented might have noticed that the background behind us are not blackberries. And so I've got 2 things that I'd like to say. The first one is, these are blueberries, and the second is we do know the difference between blackberries and blueberries. The extension cord on this rainy day just wouldn't reach to the blackberry planting. We're going to talk about primocane blackberries throughout the next hour. These are a revolutionary new type of blackberry that has the potential to produce 2 crops in a single year. Most of you are familiar with the standard blackberry cultivars. They grow as a primocane the first year and fruit in May, June, or July, depending on where you are, the second year on floricanes. Primocane fruiting varieties have the potential to fruit in the fall on the primocanes and then again the next year on floricanes, providing berries when the market is least saturated with berries and the demand is highest, so the profitability could be greater, and also just simply the ability to grow 2 crops in a single season. Now, to tell us more detail about primocane blackberry varieties and what they will do, I'd like us to go now to the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture Fruit Research Station near Clarksville, Arkansas, and hear from Dr. John Clark, our distinguished horticulture faculty member, about primocane blackberry varieties. John, tell us more about these unique varieties.
Hello, I'm John Clark, and I work at the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture, and I'm at the division's Fruit Research Station near Clarksville. This is where our fruit breeding program has been based since its beginning in 1964. Dr. James Moore had a broad dream when he began the fruit breeding program, working on a range of crops. But one of our most important crops, and where we've had our greatest success, is blackberries. The first blackberries were released in 1974, the varieties Comanche and Cherokee, and a whole series of those have been released since then. The first thornless was Navajo, which took 25 years to get the canes to stand upright and get thornlessness in the canes. And the floricane fruiting varieties that followed, such as Arapaho, Apache, Ouachita, and Osage, have all made major contributions to commercial blackberry production for shipping, local markets, and they're really good at home also. Then we began to work in the late 90s in primocane fruiting, a true breakthrough in blackberry production to allow fruiting for a longer period. These are some of the key achievements of the program, and it's really exciting to get to share them with you today. I'm often asked, what is a primocane fruiting blackberry? Well, the first thing we need to talk about is what is a blackberry botanically. Blackberries and their cousin raspberries are very unique plants. They have a perennial root system, which means they live year after year after year, but they have biennial canes, meaning the canes live 2 years. This is quite unusual in the plant kingdom. Most of the blackberries you've seen are floricane fruiting varieties, where the primocane grows the first year growth. It goes through a dormant period, and the second year it flowers and fruits, and after flowering and fruiting, it senesces and dies, and the new primocane is growing for next year's crop. And one of the key things about floricane fruiting varieties, the type that goes through the dormant period, most of the ones in the world today, is this time of year the primocanes are vegetative, and you can see the growing point has no flowers. This is the floricane fruiting cane, and this cane will fruit next summer, providing fruit from May to July, depending on where you're located in the Northern Hemisphere. Now, primocane fruiting blackberries are something entirely new, and the primocane fruiting variety produces fruit on the current season cane or the primocane. This cane emerged from the crown or root system this year, and the cane terminated in flowers and the small berries developing. In the blackberry world, this is a breakthrough because it offers a number of advantages. First, in theory, you can get 2 crops on the same plant. You can also, in appropriate environmental conditions, get fruit until frost. Another advantage, potentially, of primocane fruiting blackberries is in cold regions of the country or world, where the canes will not overwinter due to damaging temperatures. With the primocane fruiting cultivars, they can grow from the crown or the root system, emerge, flower, and fruit on the current season canes. Now, it may take some special management to do that, but it opens up a lot of new windows. So what does that mean in production? This allows production for an extended period, not just the 4 to 6 weeks that we often think about blackberry production being active in a region, but in theory can move to 6 months, possibly more, with various cultivars of floricane fruiting, primocane fruiting, and management of the canes. So primocane fruiting gives us an opportunity to expand production areas, regions, environments blackberries be grown, and really important is keep blackberries on the market shelf so that our consumers always have them on hand for buying opportunities. Primocane fruiting is one of the biggest things I've seen come along in blackberries, and it's exciting to be a part of this new technology for blackberry producers. Let's talk a little bit about the history of primocane fruiting in blackberries. The trait was found in a wild plant found in Virginia many years ago. In Arkansas, we've been working for the last 21 years on primocane fruiting to improve it and incorporate it in our blackberry breeding program. I remember the day, September 27, 1997, when we selected the first 14 primocane fruiting blackberry selections. I remember leaving the field that day thinking, wow, this is exciting. The first thought, this is almost a new crop, and it will be fun for the next 25 years of my career to improve this. The other thought was, wow, those berries aren't very good. They were small little berries. Many of them had poor flavor. Many of them were doubles. Many of them had poor color. So I looked at that and said, how are we going to make that better? Well, it's been quite the story to be where we are today. Primocane fruiting cultivars that have diverse times of flowering, thornlessness, high fruit quality, high productivity. We've got a long way to go to make the perfect primocane fruiting blackberry, but we are well on our way at the University of Arkansas. This is Primark 45. Released in 2009 from the university's fruit breeding program, Primark 45 is the world's first shipping quality primocane fruiting blackberry. It has large fruit, very good flavor, good shipping capability, and high productivity. I'm holding floricane fruiting plants right now that have borne fruit in June, and the blooms are now present on the primocanes to produce the primocane crop. Primark 45 is thorny, so that's something to consider. It works well in commercial production. However, you might want to think about that for pick your own, because oftentimes pick your own customers are concerned about thorns. Primark 45 is a great choice and one that a lot of people are really happy with. This is Primark Freedom. It was the world's first thornless primocane fruiting blackberry, released in 2013. Primark Freedom is unique, and we finally got the thorns off the plants. However, it's more of a homeowner or pick your own or local market berry because it does not ship as well as Primark 45 or Primark Traveler. But look at these berries. Wow, these are impressive. These are floricane berries that ripened in late June here in Arkansas. And right now there are small green berries on the primocanes which will produce the second crop. These are Braggin berries. This is Primark Traveler, a 2014 release from the University Fruit Breeding Program. This is the world's first commercial shipping quality thornless primocane fruiting blackberry. It has large fruit, very nice flavor. It has a subacid flavor that consumers really like. These are floricane fruit ripening in late June in west central Arkansas. But right now, the canes are setting the primocane crop. And that's a crop that in certain conditions, particularly mild climate, you can extend the production season for quite a long time. Primark Traveler has been a lot of fun to develop, and I hope it will cause lots of satisfaction with growers and consumers. One of the key aspects of managing erect cane blackberries is the tipping of the primocanes during the growing season. This needs to be carried out on all blackberries, and for example here you see the branching that occurs after tipping the primocane. If this is not done, the cane will continue to expand and can get outside of the areas you want the plants to grow. You can see the point that the primocane was tipped here several weeks ago has resulted into multiple lateral branches which are producing numerous berries. This is a key component of managing erect cane blackberries, and it increases the fruiting area of primocane fruiting varieties. Research in Oregon and in California has shown that multiple tippings are really valuable for increasing yields. For instance, tipping at about 1.5 feet to 3 feet tall, and then tipping the laterals that result from that at the same length multiplies the growing points, multiplies flowering, increase yields. So that has to be looked at carefully as you manage primocane fruiting varieties so that you get all you can from the plants for high levels of productivity and increased grower profits. This is a primocane, and the tipping is done approximately shoulder height. It's very simple, just a cut like that. And that will maintain the hedgerow that you want to have to keep your plants under control and keep the canes where you want them. Wow, that's simple. And as long as you do it, particularly when the canes are small and the tips are soft, you get the maximum response and its greatest health opportunity for the plant to heal the cut and result in nice lateral branching. The lateral branches are critical for increased yields, creating a beautiful hedgerow, lateral branches, high productivity, and blackberries that are easy to maintain. One of the first challenges I saw with primocane fruiting blackberries back in 1997 was the impact of heat on the primocane fruiting potential. My observations over the last 20 years has pretty much shown that when it gets above 90 degrees Fahrenheit for multiple days or extended periods, that hinders primocane fruiting. Hinders it how? First off, when it gets really hot, on up around 100, it will stop the flowering process. It will inhibit bud formation. It can lead to double fruits. It can make the berries smaller. It can make poor quality and poor color, so it can be quite dramatic. The cane I'm holding here is developing very nice with full set berries. And so this is developed in the upper 80s, showing adaptation to that climate. You know, primocane fruiting has got a long way to go before it's adapted to all growers in all regions of the country. So everybody's going to have to pitch in and do a little bit to figure out what is best for every region and down to each farm. Primocane fruiting is one of the true breakthroughs in new blackberry production technology. But there's a lot to be done to develop the exact growing methods for homeowners, local markets, and commercial producers. There's a lot to do to adapt the technology to farms across the country and world. It's an exciting time, and that's something to look forward to in the years to come for increased blackberry production.
Thanks, Dr. Clark. You know, blackberries are an important fruit crop here in the state of Arkansas. And as Dr. Kirkpatrick mentioned, the traditional varieties are those floricane fruiting varieties. But there's a growing interest in these primocane fruiting varieties. And as he mentioned, they'll provide berries for us during late summer, early fall, when market prices are at a peak. Our SARE project was funded for a better understanding of our management of insects and diseases that are on fruit at this time of year. Additionally, high late summer temperatures also have a negative impact on those primocane fruiting blackberries. The use of mineral particle films such as kaolin clay to lower leaf temperatures and protect plants from solar injury has been suggested as a way to enhance primocane fruiting production. So, we incorporated that into our research as well. Our team, through the SARE funding, established experiments on 3 separate farms in 2 different states. One of our farms is Moss Springs Berry Farm in Bowie County, Texas, over the line. The second place that we established an experiment is Gillum Farms, which has recently been sold to Ritter Farms. That's in White County, Arkansas, and that's my home county as a county agent. And our third farm where we've established experiments and plot work and research is here in Tawnytown, Arkansas, up in the northwest corner of the state. That's Stay and Step Farms. Our research evaluated the effects of mineral particle film applications during the late season on blackberry production for insects and diseases. 2 of these farms are U-pick operations and 1 is a large commercial farm. So you may be saying, why is this important to you? Well, perhaps you could use primocane fruiting blackberries to develop an untapped market in your area. Perhaps this could be a way for you to extend your harvest into the fall. Joining me now is Dr. Don Johnson, University of Arkansas, Professor of Entomology. Hi, Don.
Hey, Sherry, thank you.
Yeah, Don's going to talk to us about our pest management practices that we did with this research. He's also going to share our findings regarding the effectiveness of kaolin clay to blackberry production, especially primocanes.
Well, thank you, and good morning. I will be talking about several of the pests that we have in Arkansas that affect blackberry, and I'll be talking about monitoring techniques, how to identify the pests, how to identify the damage, and also various control tactics that are recommended. Blackberry pests, in the order that they appear during the season, are strawberry clipper, redneck cane borer, spotted wing Drosophila, stink bug, broad mite, Japanese beetle, and raspberry crown borer. Strawberry clipper. This pest lays eggs in the strawberry flower, or I mean the blackberry flower, and then it also severs the stem. And we monitor for it by trying to knock the adults off the flowers onto a paper plate. And you can also note how many severed stems there are in a per 4 foot area. And if you have more than 1 adult or more than 2 severed stems in a 4 foot of row, you can apply insecticide. And you'll notice that I was saying that we only can apply up to first flower. After that, we can't apply any insecticide to save bees. And we also have to remember to read through our labels and our state registered compounds to see what is allowed in your state for blackberries. Redneck cane borer. This is a pest that comes out in May and June, and the adults will appear only on primocanes. So look for them on primocanes. You can see mating pairs on primocanes. You can see them doing a little bit of feeding damage on the primocane leaves, and they will lay eggs in the cane. The redneck cane borer larva emerges and it girdles the cane, and then later in the season, probably in July and August, you'll start seeing galls on the cane. And they overwinter as an enlarged white larva in the pith. Normally, healthy canes in the spring will leaf out and they'll flower. But when you have redneck cane borer galled canes, you'll see in these blue circles there's galls, and that restricts flow of nutrients and water above the cane, or above the gall. And you will see that the leaves will come out, the flowers will come out, but they'll soon die. So it really reduces yield. In terms of control of redneck cane borer, if you have just a low population of galled canes, like less than 5%, you can go in March and sever or prune out those canes and shred them up so the larvae or the adults will not emerge. But in some cases you get a little bit higher population of galled canes, and it's better to start some kind of insecticide spray program. So monitor for the adults in May and June during the midday, and you can look on primocanes. And if you see adults, then once you have post-bloom, it's legal to apply insecticides such as a soil drench to kill the larvae, which would be Admire Pro, and then a weekly foliar spray of JMS stylet oil. Spotted-winged Drosophila, this is becoming a worldwide pest on berries and cherries and some other fruits. It's a very small fly, 1/10 of an inch in size. It has a spot on the male's wing tips. There's no spot on the female wing tips. And the female is kind of unique. It has an egg-laying organ called an ovipositor that is serrated on the end, and that allows it to lay eggs in ripening and ripened fruit. So this egg laying can occur from late May all the way into first frost in the fall. So they'll lay eggs, and if you have a magnifying glass, you can see the two little breathing tubes sticking out of the skin. And then later you'll see the larvae inside. They're a legless white larva. Spotted wing monitoring usually starts about 3 weeks before ripening begins. This gives you an indication if flies are present. And we have a monitoring trap that has a lure inside, and it also has vinegar inside, and we place it on the perimeter of the planting 3 weeks before ripening, and then we also place it at about the berry height. Spotted wing larvae can be detected by a flotation method. We harvest about 30 fruit and put them in, let them soak for about 30 minutes in a water solution that's a 1 quart water plus a 1/4 cup of salt. And hopefully you won't see any larvae float up. That would be an indication that your management techniques are working well. Some of the techniques we use to minimize numbers of spotted wing: first of all, sanitation. This is removal of culls and overripe fruits from the field, and then solarize those and send them off to the dump. Don't keep them around the field. This is a food source for spotted wing to lay eggs in. And the other thing, more importantly, is to harvest daily or every other day. This greatly reduces the number of fruit that have eggs laid in them, and then immediately refrigerate, and this slows down the development of spotted wing. Some of the techniques to also reduce the fly is probably most successful so far has been insect exclusion netting, which is a 1 millimeter mesh netting that you put over the planting. Another one is black weed barrier. This will reduce the number or the survival of the larvae as they fall from the fruit and land on the ground to pupate. And then also to enhance your efficacy of your weekly miticides, if that's what the program you're using, have a less dense canopy so you get very good coverage of your insecticides. So our project was trying to also look at the effect of surround whitewashing the canopy on temperature of the canopy, fruit yield, acceptability of whitewashed fruit to the consumer, and also can we control some of the pests and diseases. And we whitewashed 8 of 16 plots, they're 20-foot plots, and we washed them as needed to maintain that whitewashing. And we also monitored the temperature in those canopies and in untreated canopies and then outside and ambient. We basically found that the effect of whitewashing on canopy temperature was minimal because both the green or the whitewashed plants were only slightly cooler than the ambient temperature. Stink bugs. We see several types of stink bugs in our plantings, brown ones and green ones, and they pierce the drupes, and this causes the drupes to dry out. And then also we can monitor for these pests using either a yellow pyramid trap that's baited with either a green and a brown stink bug lure. These are available at some of your IPM supply houses. And you can look from mid-May through harvest, looking at fruit, looking at the trap, and especially looking for nymphs. Broad mites. You see the picture on the left is a picture of a healthy terminal of a primocane. In the middle, you can see the damage that broad mites do by feeding on the underside of the leaves of terminals. It'll actually bronze the leaves, and in many cases, the leaves and the fruit clusters on the terminal tip will die. And you'll also see cupping both upward and downward from the broad mite. Broad mite female is kind of amber colored, the left picture. It has a white hourglass mark on it. And very distinguishing is the egg. You'll see those spotted. The egg is very white and spotty. And then the males are even more unusual because they carry around an immature female, and when she encloses to an adult, they mate. And broad mites can be controlled using microthiol if the temperatures are below 90, or we have one compound only registered for blackberry broad mite, and that's Agrimec. And that's usually applied if it's above 90 degrees. Japanese beetle. This is something that's coming out. We still have Japanese beetle in the field today, and they come out in June and July. They cause flower damage, which will reduce yield, and they'll also get, to some extent, they'll put chew holes in the leaves. We can monitor for the first emergence of adults using the yellow trap to the left that's baited with a dual lure, and you can also walk the planting. Japanese beetles unfortunately come out at the time of primocane bloom, which means we can't use insecticides. So that was one of the reasons for our use of surround, to see if that would reduce the amount of damage to the flowers. And we're still evaluating that at the moment. The last pest is raspberry crown borer, and this is unusual because it comes out in the fall. The moth comes out, and the larvae will start tunneling in the crown, and it'll cause the canes to die, as you can see. And in the foreground, you can see over time, the foreground is an older planting that's had a lot of raspberry crown borer damage, and there's very few canes. It reduces primocane production. In the background, you can see a nice, healthy, young planting, very even distribution of canes. Raspberry crown borer, biology, it starts out in September as an adult. It lays eggs on the upper canopy of the blackberries, on the underside of the leaves, and then the larvae hatch and go down to the bottom of the cane, just below the soil surface. There's two ways to monitor for it. The first one is May through August. You can look for those shepherd crook or dead canes, cut them off at the base, and you may see a tunnel and a larva inside. In fall, you can look for you can look at the base of the primocane for pupal skins, indicating adult emergence is occurring. And Before I talk about the reference of the blackberry pest, the raspberry crown borer can be controlled in the fall, late October, with a soil drench pesticide. And here you see all the blackberry pests I covered, and the spray periods are noted in orange, and the larval periods where you don't spray are noted in yellow. Thank you very much. This is a good time for you to ask, go to your Q&A and ask any questions. We'll try to address them a little bit later.
All right, thanks, Don. That was good information. So if you're like me, you probably have some questions. Please take a moment now, like Don said, and type those questions into your Q&A box. We'll answer some of them live later in the broadcast. But I want you to know all of your questions will be answered by an extension specialist, if not live, then through text for you. You know, our partnership with this project is invaluable and critical with our cooperating farmers to the success of this. And these are our cooperating farmers. They represent all three farms that we've been talking about. The first one is Todd Gibson. Hi, Todd. Todd is from Ritter Farms, and he's from White County, Arkansas. His farm is in White County, Arkansas. The next one's Eric Lum. Thanks for being with us, Eric. Eric is with Moss Springs Berry Farm in New Boston, Texas. Les Dozier, we appreciate you. He's with Stay and Step Farm here in Tawnytown, and all three of them have agreed to share their knowledge from the grower's perspective with us. Todd, tell me about your operation. I know you're relatively new to horticulture farming, but you're not new to agriculture as a whole. So tell us about your operation.
Right, Sherry, and thank you for having us. You know, Ritter as a company has been involved in production agriculture since the company's inception in about 1886. And since that time, they've been intensely involved in row crop, agribusiness ventures, but just recently have we stepped into the world of berry production. So we're brand new, and we don't have the experience.
So good.
So far, so
Okay,
good.
good.
Big learning curve.
Yeah.
And with that said, I want to extend my sincere appreciation to the University of Arkansas and all their expert staff for all the help they've given us and continue to give us in breaking into this new industry.
Well, we're glad to have you. Thanks for being here, Todd. Eric, we got a few questions for you, bud. Okay. Eric's a retired county agent from Texas on top of everything else, and you're doing this in your retirement years, eh?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Tell us about Moss Springs Berry Farm and how long you've been growing blackberries there.
Okay. Moss Springs Berry Farm is owned and operated by my wife, Belinda, and myself. And yet at the same time, we involve the entire family. Our grandchildren are very active in the operation of the farm. We are a basic you pick, we pick operation. However, through the years, we've built up a very strong clientele. My wife utilizes Facebook to keep our clientele advised as to the status of the orchard. Then we also have a winery that we furnish blackberries to. And we planted our first berries in 2003, so I guess you could say we began to be established in 2003. We've been in operation for 15 years. We love to have people come by. It's family oriented. We have a lot of grandparents that bring their grandchildren, and especially now we're having a lot of young people coming and bringing their children so that they get an ag experience.
That's a good thing. That's good.
Yes, it is.
So tell me, how'd you get involved in this project? And I got another question before you go. How do these primocane fruiting varieties have a fit in your operation?
Okay, it was very simple for me to get involved.
Yeah.
As a county agent in Bowie County, which corners or joins two different counties in Arkansas, we had a lot of joint educational efforts between the Extension Service in Arkansas and the Texas Agricultural Extension Service. And then also I attended several field days, and they were very helpful up at Hope, Arkansas, and they did an excellent job. And that's where I first began to become interested in the blackberries. When I grew up as a kid, we had blackberries, but they were more boysenberries, and they had huge thorns, and they ate you up, and you got chiggers, and you had to watch for snakes and everything.
It was a labor of love, indeed.
It was.
Yeah.
No, it was a labor where your parents told you had to go
you got
do it.
that.
It wasn't any love to it.
You got voluntold to go pick them. I'm
That's
with
right.
you. Yeah.
But through these contacts, we were invited to participate, and we're so proud to be a part of it. It's been very educational. When we look at Traveler, we're still in a learning curve.
Right.
Because we're pretty far south. We're quite a bit further south than any of the other producers.
Which is one of the reasons we wanted y'all in this, so we can actually say we've done research in 3 different areas.
Yes,
so,
ma'am. One of the things that we're facing with we have a wonderful early crop in June. We were very pleased with it. Off of 320 feet a row, we harvested over 600 pounds of blackberries.
That's good stuff.
And that is excellent, and it's a very good tasting berry. We did a little taste test. We basically have Ouachita and the Traveler. Now, we've tried every variety that Arkansas comes out with because we feel like, or I feel like, Arkansas leads the country when it comes to thornless blackberries.
Well, we thank you for that.
And no one likes to come out and get stuck by a thorn.
No.
So it's very important for us to keep the orchard very clean. It's very important that it be thornless so that the little kids, we encourage families to come out. We've started out, we had a lot of grandparents that brought grandkids. Now we're having a lot of younger adults that are bringing their children so that they want to know where that fruit comes from. They want to actually pick it off the vine and meet the person that's growing it.
That's good. Ag awareness is important.
And we hope it will have a place once we learn how to utilize it to help take some of the pressure off our other orchard in the winery.
What you sell to them?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Okay, Les, we got a few questions for you.
All right.
Now, we appreciate you hosting us today.
You're welcome.
And I assume you're glad we brought you some rain, because that was on us, you know.
I think we'll leave it to God.
Oh, okay, we'll leave it to God. All right. How'd you get involved in this project?
Well, I've worked with Dr. Johnson for many years concerning the health of my blueberries and blackberries and raspberries whenever I come to a pest situation. So that's how I got started to begin with.
So Don hooked you up here.
Yeah, Don did,
Yeah.
and but you know, as background as far as the farm is,
Yeah.
we started in 1989. We planted blueberries to begin with, as you can see from the sign, but after a few years, we advanced into blackberries. But my background is actually animal science,
Right.
and so when we bought a 10-acre farm, and I was trying to figure out what to do. Well, you can't raise many cows on 10 acres.
Not many.
So I looked into the numbers, and other than marijuana, berry production per acre is the biggest cash return.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
yeah.
we started with the blueberries, and then after about 5 years of production, we had customers saying, "Well, do you have anything else?" And so I thought, well, let's try raspberries and blackberries. So we went into raspberries and blackberries. We've been doing both of those for about 15 to 20 years.
So it was a good compliment to your blueberries.
Yes, it's a very strong complement, and if I have a weak year in one crop, I can usually make up for it in another.
That's good. Diversification's important.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about this kaolin clay product. You know, we've done that in this research. So what are your thoughts from a grower's perspective on surround or kaolin clay in your plantings?
I think it's going to be depending on the consumer, because we've discussed this even last year. You know, they're basically spray painted a white color.
Right.
And you can rinse them off fairly quickly, but from a farmer's point of view, any extra work is not a good thing. And so as it's going to add moisture to the fruit. My only thoughts and recommendations were, you know, if you have an overhead sprayer, like turn it on the night before, spray the fruit, and then the next day the fruit will be dry and ready to pick and clean.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you have access to a hose with a sprayer, you can kind of do that. But on the side note, one of the things that I found out on the blackberries was the dual crop, and I see you did that too. But in the test plot the university had, I cut them all down to the ground, so it was only primocanes. And so when they came out, there was about 18, 20 canes per plant.
Right.
Very, very caney. But they gave me some that I could work with, and I actually kept fluorocanes from last year. And by doing that, I had a summer season, which is normally when the blueberries come out. So I got customers here with blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries all simultaneously. But then later on, I pull out the fluorocanes now, and the primocanes that are left are actually, to me, they're not as caney. There's
Yeah.
probably 5 to 8 canes for this fall. And so it seems
dual crop is a better alternative rather than just one single primocane.
And that's why
So-
we do this type of research, and we do it on farm sites. And we appreciate y'all. Thank you very much. Okay, y'all. Les brought up an important part about that surround and the consumer acceptability, and our entire team is in agreement that there is an issue with that because folks just don't want to wash or buy blackberries that have white specks on them. So that's just the way it is. And so we talked about that, and we said, well, we're looking into the usefulness of surround or kaolin clay until the greenberry stage for early to mid-season suppression of diseases and pests. Kaolin clay has been used in other fruit crops such as apples, and there doesn't seem to be an issue with washing it off of them as they remain in good condition afterward. But as you probably know, and Les relayed that information as well, man, washing blackberries affects their shelf life. So without any further ado, joining us now in the broadcast is Dr. Jenny Popp and Leah English. They are our ag economists, and they will explore the dollars and cents of this potential untapped market of producing primocane fruiting blackberries into the late summer and early fall.
Thanks, Sherry. Rain or not, it's still a beautiful day out at Les's blackberry fields. Lee and I can see them out through the window. When most people think about running a farm, they often picture a farmer working outside in fields like these. However, a very important part of running a successful farm actually occurs away from the fields. This is farm planning and budgeting.
So what is farm planning? Farm planning is exactly how it sounds, coming up with a plan for the future of your farm. This includes deciding what crops or livestock to raise, how to raise them, and how to sell them. So why is this important?
It's important because running a farm can be a risky venture. It's not like other businesses where you can quickly adjust to unexpected circumstances.
Bad weather, pests, or disease may wipe out your crop. An unexpected change in the market for your product may greatly reduce the price you get. And don't forget about government policies. Policy changes can have a big impact on where your crops can be sold or at what price. These are just a few examples of things that may affect your bottom line.
The key to running a successful farm isn't what you grow, it's whether it's financially sound. Farm planning is an ongoing process, but beginning with a plan will set you up for success and help you achieve your goals. In other words, farm planning allows you to move from wishful thinking to reality.
A major part of farm planning is creating a budget. A farm production budget lays out your yearly costs, revenues, and expected profits for your farm. This may sound a bit complicated, but it's really not. Anyone can create a budget, right, Jenny?
Right. It's easy to take the process and break it down into its smaller pieces. And when you put those smaller pieces back together, you will have a detailed budget that will allow you to determine which of your goals are feasible. So let's talk a little bit about the steps to get you started.
All right, the first step is to outline your plans. You need to figure out what you want to grow and how you want to sell it. Say, for example, you think you might want to start growing blackberries. Or if you're already a blackberry grower, you might want to expand your operation or try out a new variety. You need to begin by thinking about what you want to grow, how much you want to grow, and what practices you'll use to grow it.
Now that you know what you want to grow, the next step is to decide how to sell it. This is called your marketing plan. You pick farm store, farmers markets, and wholesale are just some of your options. And depending on which option you choose, there will be different cost and revenue outcomes for you to consider. For example, we recently worked with the North American Raspberry and Blackberry Association on a pricing survey. We found that the highest prices for blackberries were received at farmers markets, while the lowest prices were received for large quantities of berries sold to wholesalers. So, depending on how many berries you have and where you plan to sell, your revenue can vary a lot.
Once you have a plan of what you want to grow and how you want to sell it, the next step is to think about the types of costs associated with producing and selling your berries. These costs can be divided into two main types, fixed and variable.
Fixed costs are costs associated with those assets that you expect to have year after year. Think about equipment and land. Fixed assets aren't easy to change the amount in production in a given growing season. For example, a farmer won't generally put new acres into land mid-season, or new acres into production mid-season. Variable costs, however, are the costs for those inputs that you can change during a growing season. Think about the amount of fertilizer you use, or perhaps irrigation, and most importantly, the amount of labor.
And once you have an idea of your costs, it's time to think about your revenues. think back to your marketing plan. How do you want to sell your crop? And once you have an idea of your revenues, to do this, first you want to estimate what prices you want to set for your crops, and then think about how much do you realistically think that you can sell. Taking the quantity that you plan to grow and multiplying by the price you expect to get will give you your expected total revenue.
All right, so you have your costs, you have your revenues. Now you need to calculate your expected profits. Profits are the difference between your revenues and costs. If your costs exceed your revenues, well then your plan doesn't make sense economically. Assessing the profitability of your operation may sound difficult, but there's multiple ways that you can do a budget. Just choose the version that's best for you.
Your budget can be as simple or as complex as you like. You can create your own budget on paper or using spreadsheet programs such as Microsoft Excel. Many extension agencies also offer free budget templates online. So if you're new to budgeting, a quick Google search for BlackBerry Budget Template is a good place to start.
To make things a bit easier, you might want to purchase budgeting software that will walk you through the process step by step, or you can use some of the free software tools that are available.
And speaking of free software tools, we actually have some free tools available on our website. The beauty of our tools is that they can be used by both beginning or advanced budgeters. Now here's a short video of me walking you through the process of using our BlackBerry budgeting tool.
Our tools are interactive, meaning you can change values and they will recalculate your costs and revenues for you. The tools contain some average values for Arkansas production systems. You can either use these default values or you can change them to better reflect your individual farm situation. For instance, you may change the planting distance used on your farm, the amount of acres of blackberries in production, the yield you expect to get for your plants, the percentage going from fresh versus processed markets, the market prices you expect to receive from fresh versus processed sales, labor costs, interest costs, and the cost of setting up your trellis or irrigation systems. You can also build a list of any machinery or equipment you expect to purchase for your farm. Once you have all of your initial inputs entered, simply press the green Run button, and the tool will calculate a customized estimated budget for you. Once the tool has calculated your budget, you can view the results in several different ways, including a comprehensive estimated budget that covers all years of farm planning from your soil preparation all the way through production year 5. The budget allows you to see your annual gross returns, your expected costs, and a breakdown of what profits you can expect to make from year to year. Our tools also allow you to do advanced economic analyses, such as break-even, sensitivity, or risk analysis. Break-even analysis allows you to better understand what you need in terms of prices and quantities in order to begin making a profit within a certain period of time. With the uncertainty involved in farming, it is also good to consider what happens to your farm profitability if your circumstances change unexpectedly. Sensitivity analysis can help you better prepare for the unexpected. Yields, markets, or market prices may change from year to year. What if a storm unexpectedly wipes out part of your crop? What if the price for berries in your market goes down? Or on the other hand, what if things look better? Input prices may go down or your market price could go up. Our budgets calculate how your profits change as the situation changes and allows you to compare different scenarios. Our risk management tool can help you determine the likelihood of reaching a target profit level over time. This feature in particular can be useful for long-term farm planning. For example, being able to show that there is a high likelihood of turning a profit may help you convince a banker to give you an operating loan for your farm. This tool may be one way to help you calculate that likelihood. If you would like to give our tools a try, you can download from the CARS website at cars.uark.edu. We currently have tools available for blackberry, raspberry, blueberry, strawberry, and apple production. You can also email us at cars@uark.edu and we can send you a copy.
To learn more about how to use our budgets, you can also visit the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Service Blackberry School website and visit and view Leah's presentation on working with our interactive fruit budgets. So Leah, what's our take-home message today?
Well, Jenny, bottom line is when it comes to farm planning and budgeting, just do it.
All right. Well, thank you, Jenny and Leah. And as a producer myself in Southern Arkansas, I've got to say, having a marketing plan and a budget is probably the key ingredient to making a successful operation each year. We've covered a lot of ground over the last hour, and now in our remaining time, we'd like to hear from you. Your Q&A boxes, continue to post questions in them. We will answer some live. I'm being joined now by the rest of the research team, and we're going to do some of these online. Please continue, any questions you have, please continue posting them. Okay, our first question from a grower is one that I believe we're going to need to have a couple of folks answer, and the question is tipping done before or after fruiting? Let's hear from the northern and the southern locations because it's going to depend on where you are. Les?
I've got Natchez and the Traveler, and we did the tipping in June for the Traveler. We tipped about yay high, about 36 inches or so, and on the Traveler I did about 40 to 48 inches, and then I tip again and again. Multiple times through the season, but it'll be during harvest. So you'll have the floricanes with fruit and then the primocanes coming up, and you want to get them about right as they're getting about yay high.
All right. Eric, what about from the southern?
From the southern side, we have Ouachita's and Travelers. And we go in just as soon as right before harvest, we begin harvesting, and we go in and we tip off the tall canes. When we take off the tall canes, we have trellises that are about 42 inches to 48 inches high, and we tip them the first time about 4 to 6 inches above the wire. Then we come back and we will continue tipping them so we don't get too long of branches so that we can control the growth pattern and where the blooms are and the fruit is.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Our next grower asked the question, which primocane is recommended for home growers? Does anybody want to volunteer to take that? Sherry?
You know, Les talked about it, when you've got primocanes, home growers usually don't want to mess with thorns. Now, on our farm, Todd and I have Primark 45, basically because we had our plots established before Freedom and Traveler came out. They have thorns. Although they are wonderful and tough plants, I would probably recommend Primark Freedom for home growers, but that is an extra sweet berry and they ripen really quickly. So if you want to have that for your home, that's probably my choice. If you need something like Les and Eric have, a U-pick operation or some type of a farmer's market vendor, you probably want the Primark Traveler because their shelf life lasts longer.
All right, thank you. Another person asked the question, does the fly needing help reduce heat stress? Don, you're the entomologist. I'll let you answer.
I think the question is, does the fly netting does it alter the heat stress on the plant? We basically had high tunnels with netting, and we actually were getting much bigger yields inside the tunnels, and there was not a whole lot of effect on firmness or even titratable solids. So it was not affecting that at all. And it also advanced production a little bit. We had yield a little bit earlier in the tunnel than outside.
All right, thank you. Here's one, does the clay affect photosynthesis? And I guess I'll answer that one. We didn't measure the photosynthetic change in our in this study. Previous studies have shown, however, in apples and other crops that if it's applied right according to the label, photosynthesis is not affected. So we did not measure it, but we assume the answer to that is no. Another question is, can you speak more of the results of the study? Was Surround effective in managing pests? And was Surround effective in lowering the temperature of the canopy? And why is that important? Don, do you want to do that one again?
Well, as you saw in my talk, the temperature does not change a whole lot in the canopy when you whitewash the plants with Surround. So it was not really lowering the temperature of the leaves. And I can't remember what the second question was.
I can't either.
Why is that important?
Why is it important? Yeah.
And did it have any
Well, in
insect
terms of
dispersion?
pests, we're still, several of the pests we just didn't see in our study, so we don't see any real, we haven't been able to get any results on that aspect. We're starting to have a little bit of Japanese beetle here, but we had a drought and that kind of delayed their emergence. So we're trying to assess if there is any real difference right now in our yields, and we're still accumulating because we just started collecting yield data last week here. So, but we hope to see some effect of Surround on the Japanese beetle. It does reduce foliar feeding in other crops like in grapes.
All right, thank you. A grower or a person asked, can these types of blackberries escape cultivation and become invasive? And can they cross with our native blackberries and change their characteristics? Sherry, you want to answer that, or?
I guess they could escape. I mean, they're prolific and they're hardy, but I don't know that I don't think they would be invasive either, you know. So.
I've got to say, as someone who spent my youth walking through thorned wild blackberries, having them become invasive might not be a bad idea.
That's exactly right, but I'm like you, I don't think they would.
I
Les.
don't
wouldn't
believe
think
they will. I don't believe so.
Stay more
Yeah.
central, but the niches they do, and the
Right.
Washita and the Arapaho. So you'll have some spread, but not
Right.
really what I would call invasive.
Okay, what and when should fertilizer be used in blackberries? Eric or Les or either of you?
Well, I'm representing the southern side, and we're about 200 miles south of here. So our fertilization program is going to be earlier than Les's. We're going to go in probably somewhere when I see the first green up, I'll go in and I'll fertilize the first time. We use 1717, about a half a cup to a cup in between the plants. Then we'll come back a later time after the fruits are just about finished. The fruiting is finished, then we'll come back and apply a second application. So for the southern region, you're going to do it a little differently than you will northern.
Up in the north, I usually have a single application. Of course, traditionally, if you have more light applications, it's probably better. I do a light application generally of urea throughout the fields, and it's about 200 pounds per acre, but due to the pH of my fields, I've had to change, and I've gone with ammonium sulfate for the last couple of years.
All right, y'all. Our time is about up here with you all today, and I'd like to thank you for your participation. I'd also like to thank SARE for funding this project. We all encourage you to continue to explore this new production opportunity. Also, there's a few reminders for all of you that are linked to us today. A recording of this broadcast will be posted in our blog. Please respond to the brief evaluation link you will receive following this broadcast. We want and we need your feedback. Thanks for being a part of our virtual field trip from the Arkansas Ozarks.